village, tucked between whispering pine forests and silver blue hills, there lived a little girl loved by everyone who knew her. She wore a hooded cloak the color of blooming red roses, stitched by her grandmother with threads of love and tiny embroidered stars. Because she never took it off during her walks, everyone fondly called her Little Red Riding Hood. Her days were filled with laughter, help, and kindness. She picked wildflowers for neighbors, carried baskets for elders, and skipped around every corner as though her steps were made of music.
Good morning, dear.
Hello there, Red Riding Hood. Be careful on your way.
Such a beautiful day, isn't it?
The forest near the village was her favorite place, a place she knew like a close friend. The rustle of leaves, the smell of pine needles, the tiny paths lined with moss and sunlight. One morning, her mother called her with a warm smile. "Your grandmother isn't feeling too well. I've packed a little basket of bread, honey, and warm soup. Take this to her, dear. But remember, stay on the path, don't wander, and don't talk to strangers." Little Red Riding Hood nodded eagerly, her red hood fluttering as she moved. "I'll be careful, Mama." The forest was wrapped in soft morning light as she walked down the familiar path. Birds chirped in gentle rhythms as though welcoming her. Sunlight spilled between tall trees like golden ribbons. She hummed a simple tune, her basket swinging lightly at her wrist. She would have reached her grandmother's house safely, just as she had many times before, if the forest hadn't been watched by a pair of clever eyes. A large gray wolf, sharp-eyed and smooth-voiced, had been lurking among the shadows. He was not like the wolves of old tales. He was cunning, patient, and always hungry for mischief. He watched the girl with great interest, a child alone, cheerful, trusting, but he couldn't simply leap out. No, he needed a plan. "Good morning, little one," said the wolf, stepping onto the path so silently that even the leaves didn't notice him. Little Red Riding Hood stopped, startled, but remembered her manners. "Good morning, sir." The wolf bowed slightly, pretending politeness. Where does such a bright little traveler go on this fine day? She hesitated. She wasn't supposed to talk to strangers, but the wolf looked so calm and well-mannered, with a friendly smile that almost touched his gleaming eyes. "I'm going to visit my grandmother. She's a little sick." "Ah, such a caring granddaughter. I hope she feels better soon. Tell me, does she live far?" "Not too far, just past the 3 pine trees and across the small wooden bridge." The wolf's mind began to race. If he reached the grandmother first, he could trick them both and enjoy the meal he desired. But he kept his voice kind and warm. "You know," he said, looking around, "the forest is in such a beautiful mood today. Flowers have blossomed everywhere. Perhaps your grandmother would love a bouquet. Why don't you pick some? It would brighten her day." She looked at the bright patches of wildflowers on the forest floor. Her grandmother loved flowers, and the idea seemed so thoughtful. "That's a wonderful idea," she said happily. The wolf grinned inwardly. "Enjoy, little one. Take your time." He slipped away like a shadow, moving swiftly through hidden paths only forest creatures knew. He padded across leaves without making a single sound. The thought of a full meal pushing him forward. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood wandered off the path, carefully picking daisies, bluebells, and tiny pink blossoms. The breeze carried a sweet smell, and she felt happy imagining her grandmother smiling at the bouquet. She did not notice how time passed, and only when the basket began to feel heavier did she remember her mother's instructions.
"Oh no, I must hurry," she whispered. Clutching her flowers, she returned to the path and rushed forward. But the wolf was already at her grandmother's cottage. He knocked gently on the wooden door. "Who is it?" came the soft, tired voice of the grandmother. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf replied in a high, sweet voice that barely resembled her. "Come in, dear," said the grandmother. The wolf slipped inside, and everything went according to his plan. He hid the grandmother safely in a cupboard, frightened but unharmed, because he wanted to enjoy his tricks without interruption. Then he put on her shawl, her nightcap, and her round spectacles. He even covered himself with blankets to hide his large, furry shape. Only his gleaming eyes remained the same. Moments later, the girl reached the cottage, her cheeks flushed from the quick walk. "Grandmother," she called softly. "Come in, my dear," the wolf said, trying his best to sound old and weak. Little Red Riding Hood stepped inside. The cottage seemed strangely dim, the curtains drawn tightly. A strange smell of fur hung in the air, but she brushed off the feeling. She moved closer to the bed. "Grandmother, I brought you soup and flowers and—" She froze. Something looked odd. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have!" "The better to see you with, my dear," the wolf said, curling deeper under the blanket. "And what big ears you have! The better to hear you with." She stepped closer, unease twisting in her stomach. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" The wolf could no longer pretend. He sat up, throwing off the blankets, eyes shining with wild hunger. "The better to eat you with." Little Red Riding Hood gasped and stumbled backwards. Before the wolf could leap, a loud crash thundered through the door. The village woodcutter, a strong man with kind eyes, had arrived to check on the old woman after noticing the wolf's tracks. He saw the wolf lunging and raised his axe, not to harm the creature, but to frighten him. With a terrified yelp, the wolf sprang away, scrambling out the window and disappearing deep into the forest. He had learned his lesson. Cleverness could bring trouble, too. The girl trembled, tears welling in her eyes. "Grandmother, where is she?" The woodcutter searched quickly and found the grandmother hiding in the cupboard. She rushed out and wrapped her arms around her granddaughter with relief. "Oh, my sweet child, you're safe." "I'm so sorry, Grandma. I shouldn't have talked to the wolf. I shouldn't have left the path." Her grandmother kissed her hair gently. "You are safe now, and that is what matters." The woodcutter stayed for a warm cup of soup, and together they shared relief, laughter, and a promise. Little Red Riding Hood promised never to talk to strangers again and to follow the forest path faithfully. She learned that kindness was beautiful, but caution protected that beauty. From that day forward, whenever she walked through the forest in her red hood, she stayed alert and careful. The wolf never returned to that part of the woods, and peace settled once more over the quiet village. The sun shone brighter through the trees, and every step Little Red Riding Hood took echoed with the gentle wisdom she had gained with love. And so her days continued, full of warmth, safety,
and the soft glow of lessons learned with love.